Hello, and welcome to the Conscious Communion podcast, where we traverse through the inner dwellings of the human experience through conversation. I'm your host, Danae. Join me as we explore the interconnection of creativity and community. Reis Paluso is a student, facilitator, and guide of the breath. He has dedicated years of his life uncovering the mind-body connection in a way that integrates consistency, discipline, and a life of intention. He is kind, compassionate, and holds space with an overarching feeling of safety. Reis is a certified Wim Hof instructor, the co-founder of Our Breath Collective, and the sun care skin line Manda. He is a father, surfer, and husband utilizing his work with human optimization to live a life of potent integrity. Here is Reis. Hello, welcome.
Hello. Wow, thank you. I like that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, I just, I read up on your bio, but also have had the privilege of sitting with you in space and really was so honored. And I just felt so privileged to be able to sit with you and get the reiteration of all the wisdom that you've been able to integrate within your own life. And you do it with, again, such integrity. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Honor is all mine.
Yeah, thank you. So just to get started, where did it all begin? Generally there's a turning point for folks when they're feeling stuck and something needs to change. And I'm curious if that's kind of what led you to, finding that for yourself. Is that the case?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up as a surfer, and it's kind of always been my simple pleasure of life, place to go to disconnect and to connect with myself and nature. And I was in the midst of having a couple startup businesses, a digital marketing agency, and a young sunscreen line, sun care line, and also have two young kids. So obviously, as the requirements of all of those things and needs for my time and attention increased, the amount of time that I could spend on myself decreased. Well, actually, I shouldn't say could spend on my time on myself, that I did spend on myself decreased. And so, yeah, I was just having a hard time with feeling good. And I heard Wim Hof on a podcast, and that sort of launched me into this curiosity around breathing and some of these other practices that really kind of set the stage for where I'm at now. And I think it's so much timing, right? Like, it just has to be the perfect little spark at the perfect time for that fire to start, and then you just got to keep feeding it. And I feel like that's been something I've been good at my whole life, is really allowing my curiosity to let me explore down different paths. And I feel like many different lives in one, professionally and otherwise. And I would associate that to that, really not being afraid to try new things and experience as much as I can. My parents have been really supportive in that, and in not only encouraging me to do that, but also showing me that they do everything. They've tried everything. It's just it's super cool. So yeah, that was the starting point for me. And when I did my first breathing session, I was actually with my friend Luke, my business partner with Our Breath Collective, and brother from another mother. I did my first breathing session with him, and that was the talons went in deep, and I was hooked. And that was really all it took. And the rest is history. Here we are.
I just got chills because I know that feeling. It's just a shake to the system where you're like, well, life is not the same. It is this whole reintroduction of what mind, body, and spirit can actually be, instead of this idea that we've been taught and fed in our society, right? It's like I'm curious to know what kind of breath work were you doing for your first session?
Well, Luke has a rebirthing background, so we were doing a combination of Wim Hof rebirthing, kind of, I don't know. I've never
Just
done really anything like that, and so I was just going with the flow. I don't remember exactly what we did, but I just remember I feel like I went to outer space and back, and haven't felt my body in that way ever, and was just like, what just happened? And wait, all I did was breathe, and I could do that anytime and any place. Like, let's do this.
yeah.
I was hooked. Yeah, I was,
And that just started like an opportunity for you to uncover like human potential and the capacity for what you were capable for. So like what was your I know that you said like Wim Hof, you heard about it first, but what was your first step into like pursuing it actively for yourself? Because so much of that is the intention that you create within your mind, body, and spirit to be like, this is something I'm going to pursue because it's calling me.
yeah, just that feeling really was
Mm.
it for me. Luke was at my house, and we were hanging out afterwards, talking, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll give you the credentials for the login for Wim's online course." And I was like, "Okay." And so it's like a 10-week course. It was like his original one. It's pretty rudimentary and just Wim doing his thing. And I did the whole thing in like 10 days because I was just like every day, and I want more. I want, what's the next thing, you know? And so yeah, that was it. And then Luke and I kept meeting up. Like, he would come over for his lunch break, and we would breathe, or he'd be here on the weekends. And then, yeah, a whole like kind of thing just started with that. It was just like kind of the two of us at my house, and then started inviting friends over. And then, yeah, just one thing led to another, and
That's
continued,
incredible.
continued my curiosity around it. I mean, it's still curious, like so much we don't know. And
Right.
it's an exciting time.
Definitely. Definitely, especially because you have created something so beautiful. Your community is continuously growing and you've started a school, like a breath and you're guiding these folks into such a different style and opportunity to learn about the breath because again in my intensive that I got to sit with you and I just mentioned to you this earlier before we got online, but there was such it was a bit of a shock to the system because I was used to structure and you really encouraged us to play
Mm.
and to just lean into these spaces of discovering how the breath could impact us, giving us these tools, but then letting us just go off on our own and then just see what comes. And for me, that's been the most impactful part of my own practice with the breath is letting it be guided through my own intuition. And so, what would you say to someone who doesn't necessarily have a breath practice, but is potentially looking to like incorporate some type of just mindfulness within their practice with the breath to kind of play in that space of, you know, just playing essentially, just kind of going for it?
Yeah, it's a scary thing for a lot of people to just play. We like to have structure. We like to be told what to do. We like to do the right thing, the best thing. We want to know the way. We want to have the pill. And so playing and exploring seems foreign to a lot of people. And so I think first and foremost is to like let go of this idea that it has to look and be a certain way. And then my sort of starting point for anyone is you don't even have to do anything. Like, you don't even have to move your breath, change your breath. The starting point is just become aware of it. We breathe 20,000 times per day. We breathe 600 million to a billion times in our lifetime. And how many of those breaths are actually that we are paying attention to, that we're aware of? Probably like zero, 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 you know, 1%, something very, very small. And so if you start to become aware of your breath, that's going to give you some pretty cool insights into yourself. Whether you know what they are or not, it's really just seeing how the breath changes from moment to moment, from situation to situation, from thought to thought, and that's going to give you some insights into you, into your various systems, your nervous system, your behavior, all of these things. And so that would be the starting point. Like, just set a timer. You're working at your desk, and every hour the timer goes off, and it's like, oh, I'm just going to close my eyes and pay attention to my breath, and take a couple breaths and see what happens, see how it feels. Maybe you take a full breath and you're like, holy cow, I haven't breathed that big in a week, or whatever. Something's going to show up. Like, always, there's always something that you become aware of. So that would be
Definitely.
the starting point. Like, keep it simple. We like to complicate things, but really, so much of having an actual breath practice is building awareness. Uh, and the more you start to become aware of it, then it's just going to start to be this automatic thing. And then you can start to layer in, this understanding of our physiology, of the mechanics, of the nervous system, of all these things that we like to teach. And then also with that, integrating different patterns of breathing and different ways of changing our state. But we got to be aware first before
So
we
good.
got to know what we're trying to do. We got to know what
Totally.
our tendencies are, and we got to understand ourselves a little bit. And so that'll be, I guess, my initial knee-jerk
No,
reaction suggestion.
that's a great suggestion. I think so often, I mean, in the very beginning phases of my breath practice and just kind of like figuring out being aware of my breath, I noticed how much I didn't actually take deep breaths. And not that you have to all the time, but it is helpful to reset a nervous system that feels a little overwhelmed. And mine was certainly a little overwhelmed when I first started introducing myself to these things. And it was like, slow down, just slow down. There was a lot of holding, I was holding my breath, and I would notice myself holding my breath, especially in these moments of panic or frustration or feeling tense. And I love that you surf, because it really is such a beautiful representation of the breath, and just kind of going with the flow and allowing nature to just, you know, move as it's going to move.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. I mean, when you have a wipeout and you're getting, cartwheeled underwater, and the more you try to fight it, the worse it gets. And then, the second you're like, okay, gotta just relax and let go, it lets you up. So it's a good metaphor for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Do you feel like that in itself, like surfing and like getting out on the water, is helpful for you in your human optimization, like study and curiosity? Do you think that it leads to enlightenment in that space for you?
I think it certainly does a lot of things for me. First, it's a lot of times it's a place to go out and sort of allow my mind to drift and wander. And I think that doing that is super important for like processing, but also for creativity, and not getting into like this, like, very linear thinking. It's just like, oh, the mind goes over here, then I notice a bird flying by, and then it goes over here. And so just really allowing it to like be like water, right? So I think that's an important thing. I think being out in the water, it's just like inherently cleansing. Uh, there's so many times where I'm like, I really don't want to go, and I can come up with all these excuses and whatever. I just don't feel like it, and then I get in the water, and I was like, God, how did I ever doubt that I needed to do this?
Mhm.
It's sort of like the ice bath. I
Yeah.
never get out of the ice bath and think like, oh, I wish I didn't do that. Same
For
thing with
sure.
surfing. Even if the waves are terrible, like whatever, just being out there, there's something that it does, for the nervous system that's just settling and relaxing. And it's interesting too because surfing is such like an individual sport, and it's like has this whole like um, what's the word I'm looking for? Like limited resources. So it gets to be pretty competitive and like a battle out there, which I struggle with all the time. And I feel like I like as I've gotten older, I feel like I get less waves because I can't deal with that. Like I can't turn that on in I mean I can, but I just like I feel like I'm turning that on all the time, and it's something that I've noticed a lot more over the last like couple of years where I'll go surfing and the waves are really good and it's crowded and I'm just like, oh man, like how do I even flip that switch now? Like it's just not in me because I feel like I'm always in that mode, and I just want to like catch waves and have fun and not try to think I'm you know gonna be a professional surfer or something,
Well,
which
it's
I
like
feel like a lot of people do.
counterproductive.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, totally. Well, everybody's like, I'm gonna get this wave, and it's like kind of defeats the purpose of being out there, right? It's like I surfed for a brief bit, and so like I I never would like argue with any like if you want to take the wave because I'm just gonna get scared and probably fall off if you're right behind me. Like
yeah,
I was, just deer legs every time someone was behind me. And I'm sure as you've also like developed your practice, it's also like, what am I holding on to this attachment for to like ride this wave? And like, am I trying to prove something? Like,
yeah.
I don't,
But it
you
is
know,
really fun.
for
I
sure,
won't
for
ride on
sure.
the wave, but yeah.
I love that. You mentioned the ice bath, and I know that that's been a huge part of your practice. Would you share a little bit about how that kind of began? Because you also invite folks into your home, and you've created such a cool space for people to explore their own potential with being uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it sort of went hand in hand with exploring the Wim Hof method, and um, you know, with Luke, we were primarily focused on the breathing, and I was doing cold showers for a long time because I didn't really like have any sort of ice bath setup, and I ended up going to a workshop in LA, and that was like the first time I ever did like a formal ice bath, getting into like a big tub of ice, and it sort of made more sense. It was like the showers, it's cold, but it's a different experience. It's not like this full submersion thing. And what I found was that, the days that I would actually do the cold exposure, that my just whole day would feel a lot easier, I guess, to put it simply. And then now obviously understanding more of the mechanisms and everything going on behind the scenes, like yeah, we're basically inducing stress. We're putting ourselves in a difficult situation, and we are allowing ourselves to be there, and then we're also allowing our body to do its thing. And we're very resilient, very strong animals that we have a lot of uh, modern luxuries and comforts that have made us soft. And that starts to build up over time. And so if we can add a little bit of stress and controlled stress and conscious stress that we're using intentionally, then we can start to build up that strength, and life just sort of changes before your eyes. So the cold has always been an arch nemesis of mine. Growing up in San Diego and surfing, I was always the guy in the summertime still wearing my full suit and never I didn't like the cold. Um, but then by starting a practice with it, it changed the relationship to it. It was like, oh wow, we can actually use this as a tool. And so it's changed that perspective that has changed the process of how I interact with the cold. Now, that doesn't mean to say I don't like to be warm and, all of those things, but um, utilizing the cold in the ways that it becomes super beneficial is super important to me. And I still battle. Like I'll go a while without getting in my ice bath, and um, that's just something that gets in the way sometimes is the mental chatter, and that's just being part of life, human, I
For
guess.
sure.
So
Yeah, definitely. How could it not be? It's just like that same feeling I'm sure that you feel when you're like, I don't really want to put on my wetsuit. I don't really want to bring my board and go down to the beach. Like, you want to go to the beach, but do you want to go fight for waves?
yeah,
I don't know, maybe not. And then I'm sure it's that same conversation within your own mind, that monkey mind, right? But then once you get in the cold and you expose yourself to the discomfort, knowing that because of your practices and because of the intention that you've put into yourself over the years, that you also have the ability to like tap into this space and this presence of calm. It's really beautiful. And then that's
yeah,
a great reminder to like, oh, this is why I did this. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, like I said, I never get out of the ice bath and I'm like, oh, shouldn't have done that today. It's
Yeah,
like, you know,
for sure.
bring it on. I got whatever's coming at me. I'm
Yeah.
ready to go. Feel good. Um, and yeah, it's one of those things that people are like, what? Why would you do that? Like, that's crazy. I mean, I so many people, family and friends, and you're nuts. And it's like, yeah, why don't you try it? And then you'll find out. Like,
Yeah.
you're not curious. You don't want to experience it. I get it. We don't like to be uncomfortable, but when we start to practice being uncomfortable, then that becomes a little bit less of a thing.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah, I would love to practice more of a intimate relationship with cold exposure. I've gone to like the rivers when it's cold, like spring, winter. I've gone a couple times, but showers just don't. It's not the same. It's not the same to do a cold shower. I do them every day, but it's not the same. You're not submerging your entire body into that discomfort, and that's where it's like, oh, okay, where am I feeling this? Your breath changes. How do you control your breath so that not even control? How do you let your breath just be? How do
Yeah,
you release your breath, right? It's not the control. That's
yeah,
what you're trying to escape from.
right.
But oh, how do you like, what is your process when you're getting into that cold exposure of like just releasing and kind of like falling into that flow of, okay, this is uncomfortable, but how am I just going to release? Almost like a closed fist to an open, just release.
Yeah, that's perfect analogy. And I normally just start focusing on the exhale. Where can I use my exhale to induce and remind myself to relax? And so each exhale, I'm really just like super focused internally and just like, okay, like imagine the exhale is draining all the tension because the more tense we get, the more difficult it is. And it's like we're trying to muscle our way through it. And it's like, ah, no, just let the cold in, like accept it, let it in. And then the body responds so much quicker. It's like the more we're fighting it and
Mm,
trying to wrestle the process takes a lot longer. But the more we can surrender, the quicker, then boom, we drop in, our body takes over, knows exactly what to do. And so part of it is, yeah, that allowing again and awareness of the body and where we're tense. And so yeah, that's kind of really where I'm focused. It's just like exhale, let everything just drain out each breath, trying to relax, really focus on my shoulders, my jaw. I hold a lot of tension in my jaw normally,
mm,
so really just like focusing on those spaces, breathe low into my belly. Um, and then, yeah, eventually hit the little switch and the body just like everything just lets go and relaxes. And then you can just like, in there, like, yeah, cool. I'm good. I can be here. Like, this is all good. It's got this arc that it goes through every time and it's coming and you just have to surrender to it and let the process happen.
That's so beautiful. I love that. Yeah, and I think it's so cool also that you found such an appreciation for it, and then you invited people from your community into that space. And I would love for you to just share a little bit about that, because not everyone would be so bold to like, all right, this thing that makes me uncomfortable, but also that helps me really see myself a little more clearly. I'm going to invite people into this space and like see what happens. And I'm sure it's been transformative to so many folks that you've invited into your space and into getting that, introduction into sitting with the cold and the discomfort and seeing where it leads them. So how did that kind of begin? Ice Church.
Yes. So I went to Poland on one of the Wim Hof retreats, and I came back and I was like so fired up. Like drove home from LAX, went to the ocean, jumped in the ocean, got home. Like my parents were actually here waiting for me, and they were all like so curious, and so I was just super excited, and I ended up buying a chest freezer, which a lot of people convert into an ice bath. And so I had that set up, and um, I was like, yeah, just wanting to kind of share. And I was having friends over already, like Luke and I kind of were doing our thing and just breathing every every weekend, and started inviting friends over, and we were just like piled in my kid's room, and then it just started like more people inviting more people. And then after getting home from Poland and I got the ice bath, I a guy that was on the trip, he had just become a certified instructor. He came and stayed with me that I for like a week or whatever, and I was like, dude, let's have a workshop, and he was all excited because he was just getting started. So I had a workshop, and a bunch of people came over. I don't know, we filled my living room with people, and then everyone went in the ice bath, and then from there he left, and then from there it was just like, okay, we're already doing this breathing, uh, and then just started inviting more and more people, and amidst that, I went into the process of becoming a certified instructor too. So um, yeah, we just I ended up making a little Facebook group and invited some friends, and then their friends invited their friends, and so ended up moving it out into the garage, and we are doing breath work in the garage, and then we'd go out in the backyard, and I had a bunch of like we drink yerba mate, and everyone would get in the cold, and then we'd circle up afterwards and share like our gratitude for the week, and started calling it Ice Church because it was on Sundays. And um, from there, I got certified as an instructor and started teaching workshops, and then people would come through my workshops that were super into it. I started inviting them. So it's just like became this whole little community here in North County, San Diego. And then COVID hit and sort of hit the brakes on it. And then I also got into other things that I was teaching. And in particular, our intensive and our teacher training were all on the weekends. And by the time Sunday came around, it was just like I didn't have it in me to keep it going. So it's sort of not really a thing anymore, but I certainly miss it. But it was a pretty special time. I mean, there was a few years where it was like we had 30 plus people piling into my garage.
Whoa.
And people started bringing food, and like everyone was just like super excited to come and be a part of it. And I think the community has grown outside of that too. Like there's just more places to get into the cold, and there's more people teaching, and so it's sort of dispersed from there. But yeah, always will be very grateful for that time, and everyone who came, and just the community that was built, and all the people that had experiences of transformation and new possibilities. It was super fun to witness that.
For sure. Well, I think it's really beautiful that something that has inspired you and transformed your life entirely has become both your passion, but also this beautiful path of pursuing the introduction to others and giving them another way showing them another way. Because obviously you can show someone another way and they don't have to choose it for themselves. But with you, you left the marketing world to pursue your own thing. And I think that that's really brave and I think that's really bold of you. But there was obviously something that was calling to that space of you sharing your gifts and your interests and your authenticity with folks. And now look at our Breath Collective and how that's grown and how it's continuing to just take shape. And you get to continue to just share this with folks. I think that's so cool. So well done.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
it's been fun. It's been quite a process for sure for myself, and obviously had many things to overcome within all of it, and still continue to have my things that I'm working on and trying to grow and be a better leader and continue to evolve my practice and my understanding of all these things. And that's having like this community that is coming to us for these things is really the inspiration to keep going, and also my family is a big inspiration. I mean, that was a really big impetus for this. A lot of the things that have happened to me, or that I've committed myself to over the last handful of years, 5, 6, 7 years, have been because of my family, wanting to be a better husband, wanting to be a better father, to really show my kids a different path, and to share like my experience with them so that maybe they don't stumble on the same things that I did and all those things. So um, yeah, it's been a fun journey and continues to evolve. Like I feel like maybe it's a blessing and a curse. Like all the things I've done in my life have more been on like, oh, this feels good and it's fun and I'm enjoying it, so I'll just keep going. And then it obviously evolves and changes shape and all of that. And that's very similar for OBC, is like didn't really have an intention for what it is today. We just wanted to share a place for where people could come and breathe every day. And then from there, it's taken shape into what it is now. And I'm sure it will continue to evolve into something I can't anticipate right now. But yeah, just being open and continuing to learn and ask questions and share and all of the things. So.
All the things. Yeah. So, like, what does your practice look like to stay grounded, if you will, in that gratitude? Because there's so much to be grateful for. And I feel like that's a good start for sure. But, like, you're doing this for your family, you're doing this for you, you're doing this for your community that's grown beautifully. But, like, how do you basically give back to yourself in a reciprocal way so that you can pour back into you so you can then also give back to your community and the people that you love?
That's the ongoing challenge, giving myself permission for that. And I've gotten better at it. I feel like when I had my marketing agency, I was really bad at it. Like I felt like, oh, I couldn't go surf or I couldn't do these other things. And um, I had to sort of dismantle that a little bit in my own mind and still continuing that process because yeah, it's certainly, well, I mean, we all certainly could do more, better, all the things. But yeah, I think having conversations like this remind me, seeing my kids and where they're at and what they're dealing with. And my wife has been in school and is getting super inspired on all the things that she's doing and just trying to like be open to like seeing these things. And I feel like gratitude is definitely a practice that I have to cultivate. I don't know that that's like my innate tendency. Something that my wife reminds me of all the time, being grateful for what I have and um, letting that be sort of the source of inspiration. So yeah, that's an ongoing sort of investigation and challenge that I continue to deal with. And I think really being committed to the practices is what keeps that flowing, and also not making myself feel bad when I fall out of practice. That's something that I tend to do, and then that sort of spirals and creates, this vicious circle of thinking. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm fully aware of that myself. I am like generally like I should say the last couple months have finally been this flow of like trying to really just integrate. Like you're allowed to rest and just be without the expectation from my own mind to like breathe or meditate. Like yes, those things are good and well, but sometimes just being and just allowing your body to almost notice, right, what's taking place. That's also part of the process. And just like recognizing that it's all allowed.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's crazy. Just the culture that we live in is just taught us the opposite. And so we have to
truly.
we have to unlearn and then relearn new things, or not new things, but just a different way. And it's difficult. And I feel like also trying to have, for me, having a few different practices is helpful, because sometimes something might really feel good and resonate, and then other times something else feels good and resonates more. So I think building this toolkit, we can pull the tools out that we need when we need them, and then that's going to keep us sort of at least in the stream going down, where we're not feeling like, oh, I'm like in the rapids and trying to, you know, keep my head above water. There's always something to pull from, to feel like, oh, okay, like just let it take you here right now, and it's okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I think that's such a good word. I think having different tools are necessary, especially with everything that's going on right now in our world. There's just so much, and you can't anticipate any of it. You kind of just have to let it come and do what it's going to do, and just let your body, you know, utilize the tools that it can in those moments.
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious. I have seen you utilize your hand pan, which I think is so beautiful. So with that, like, is that a helpful tool for you to kind of just like lean into your creative space and kind of just, flow it out, kind of like surfing? Does that kind of
I wish I could say it was more in the flow. It's one of those things, yeah, I kind of go in and out of. I don't really have a musical like inclination, like intuitive like musical sense. I mean, I love music, always listen to music, like really been into it, but actually playing it has it's been challenging, and something that I think part of it is like you want to be really good, and going through that struggle of not being very good at it is can be a bit deflating. So yeah, I kind of go in and out with it. I certainly would like to play more. It's one of those things where it's just like, oh, just the 10 minutes a day, but there's like 50 other things that I want 10 minutes a day for too. Um,
yeah.
so it kind of goes in and out, and um, yeah, it's sitting right there staring at me like, hey, you should pick me up today.
I'm
Uh,
talking to you. Yeah. Yeah,
but
for
I,
sure.
I
I
I
just
do like it because it is that like mental challenge, and it like sort of forces me to work through a little bit of a struggle, and then eventually find a little bit of flow within it. So um, yeah, it's one of those things too where I feel like I've just kind of tinkered with it, and to actually like understand it musically probably would be very helpful for me too. That's just like my mind works really well that way. That was the way it was
Mm-hmm.
for breathing. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like practice this and feel it, and then okay, then now let's bring in the science and really understand it. And so I think that would probably be helpful for me too.
Interesting. So is that the way your mind works? So you kind of like went into the feeling aspect of breathing first, and then you went to the scientific aspects after the fact?
Yeah,
Very
definitely.
cool. I like
Yeah,
that.
I think the experiential like opens up the lens of curiosity, and with breathing, like you certainly feel a lot. And then it's like, okay, cool. Like, what's going on here? Why is this happening? And then I was like, oh wow, I actually really like this science stuff. Like I'm never never thought it would be something that I would be interested in, but the way that it just connected dots, it was like, oh, okay, I was experiencing this, and okay, this is why. And then, oh, now like I want to be able to do this. Okay, cool. Here's how you do it. So um, I
Mm,
think that was a really empowering piece, but I think starting from the experiential side was a key component to it all. If I had just gone in and like gone straight for the science approach, and it might have not been the same.
for sure. For sure. That's so cool. I love that. And and so I know that you also do community breathes every week. So is that it seems like something that you're passionate about, bringing people together. So what does that generally look like for you? Like is that just like something, is it like you're, you know, something that you get to pour out, and then are you breathing with folks? Are you just kind of guiding them? Are you their facilitator in that space?
Yeah, I'm just primarily facilitating. It's been something that I really do enjoy. I was teaching at Gather and Encinitas. That was sort of the starting place for it all, and I'm now teaching somewhere else because Gather is no more, which has been kind of a bummer. Definitely miss that community, and but also now just forcing me to extend myself a little bit more to build my own community and continue to grow that. But yeah, really, it's just an hour. Like to start with a little bit of movement, just kind of getting the body and like the breathing apparatus opened up, and then it's really more of a breathing session than like a class. Like, I don't know. I don't really like to call it a class. I just call it breathing because that's what we're doing.
I
We're
love
just
it.
showing up and breathing, and
Yeah.
um, uh, breathing together in a group is like, it's so good. Like, it's one thing to like sit and breathe by yourself, but when you do it with other people, it's so beautiful. And I think obviously we can talk a lot about our nervous systems and how they work and being social beings and connecting and all of that. But so yeah, really just wanting to keep that space available for people to come together, to breathe, to feel good, to, you know, see each other and one another and all the things that come about through it. So yeah, that's just been keeping it going, and um, having to, yeah, be a little more creative now since I don't really have like the megaphone of Gather behind me to bring new people in. So trying to figure out, okay, how do we continue to grow this? And um, you know, giving chocolate at the end of my class always helps too. So
I love that. Yeah. And I know it's intentional chocolate because you do things intentionally. So it's like probably amazing, well sourced, delicious chocolate.
yes, a
Am I right?
bit of a chocolate snob,
I
but
love
yeah,
it.
try to make sure it's good stuff. Yeah,
Good. Yeah, as it should be, especially after a holy breathe, right? Like you're dousing your body with some, I mean, I just feel like when, especially in a group breathe, I've only had the pleasure of doing a few just because I found breath work in the midst of the pandemic. So I've really only done like two or three. And wow, they were totally transformative. And they are such a beautiful way to hold up one another in such a communal way, but like also just really, you can feel at the beginning of a class, you can feel that people have whatever they're holding on to, and then you can really just feel that release, and it's like
hmm
this beautiful, and you can feel it in a collective way in that space when you're all connected. And
Yeah.
it's so cool. So I just love that you're doing that, and you're not doing it just in person, which is impactful, obviously, because we know that we can feel the energetic field of others when we're surrounded by folks. But you're also doing it digitally. And I know that even with like the intensive, I would feel more connected with folks. And I got connected with people from OBC and that I still like am in communication with and that I still talk to. And I think that that's
Awesome.
so cool. Yeah, it is. It's like, and I don't know that you get to see all the repercussions of that because you're behind the scenes, but that's just like really cool. And I want you to know that that's happening, you know? So, like,
I love it.
it's this beautiful intricacy and this like network of connection through breath. And it's super dope. And yeah, it was such an honor to be a part of that space and watch you do your thing. And I can't wait to see how it evolves. Um, I wanted to ask if you could share just like how folks can find you and connect with you and more about potentially your offerings and all of those things. Do you
Yeah,
mind?
really the best way to find me is through Our Breath Collective. Um, our sort of main thing we do is we have a membership where you get access to a live session, breathing session every day. They're all 15 minutes. So the idea was to start your day with the breath, and they're at 6 a.m. We also now host one on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. So more of like a downregulation end of the day type of thing. Not everyone can do them live because not everyone's up at 6 a.m. and not everyone lives in California. So we got people all over the globe. So everything is recorded. There's an on-demand library. We're on a pretty cool community platform that has an app, so you can access it on your phone. And then from there we teach different courses and trainings. You've mentioned the Breathwork Intensive. We've got one coming up in March that gets into physiology, chemistry, mechanics, nervous system, and it's really designed around um, a personal assessment and building your relationship to the breath. And then we have Breath School, which is a teacher training program, which sort of takes that to the next level, and then is also obviously designed for facilitating breath work for other people. We just launched that, or just kicked that off, our 2023 cohort last week. So that's underway. And then we do retreats, and we're doing one in Tahoe in March, which will be breathwork, movement, cold exposure, swimming in the lake, climbing mountains in our shorts, getting in the sauna, hot tub, hiking, good organic food. We also go to this epic place in Topanga. We'll be back there at the end of May. So yeah, I got lots of fun stuff going on. We do some, free community breathes from time to time, and do some local events too. So that's the best way. Ourbreathcollective.com, Our Breath Collective on Instagram. Instagram is my main personal channel, just my name, Reis Paluso. My website's my name too. So those are the spots to find me.
Dope. I love it. And final question. If you could offer folks that are listening just one piece of advice, one offering of wisdom, and they don't need to take it, right? It's like whatever makes sense for them. What would it be? Like, what has made sense for you that you could offer to this space in this community?
I think just that same notion of like being aware, and when you are feeling a certain way, see if you can just step back and just pay attention to your breath and its connection to your heartbeat and its connection to your mind. And
Mm.
you don't even have to do anything. I think just the conscious awareness of it is going to lead you to something, and just being open to whatever that might be. So yeah, awareness, pay
Love
attention.
it. So good. Yeah, pay attention, right? Stay awake. It's like we can, we're so often like surrounded by folks that are like asleep, even in their waking sleep, right? It's just like they're not cognizant of what's going on. And just bringing that simple awareness can change the game.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time and for your energy, as always. Thank you for the
Thank
work
you.
that you're doing. Really appreciate you as a human being on this beautiful planet.
Likewise, thank you. Thank you for the thoughtful introduction and questions and conversation. It's wonderful to chat with
Yeah.
someone who understands what's going on here.
Yeah. All the love, Reis. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey there. It's Danae again. Just wanted to say thank you for sharing your time and energy with me. If this podcast resonates, please like, subscribe, follow, and share if you're willing. Reviews help too. So if you're feeling the vibe, please leave a review where you can. Sending all the love. Peace.